Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. and today I'm reviewing Twin Palms, a trick-taking game that's currently on Kickstarter, I believe. I'll have a link in the description down below. And this is a prototype, all the rules, components, all that stuff subject to change, but it's basically a trick-taking game for 2 to 5 players in which you're going to be, well, playing tricks. You're going to have a few different modes of play. I'm going to teach you the normal and then go from there to the slight variations, but for the most part, it's the basic concept is the same, just small iterations around how the game plays. You're going to deal every player 10 cards, and from there, players are going to start taking bets as to how many tricks they're going to win. So we're going to go ahead, we have 10 cards each, we're going to have those cards, and now the players are going to take their bet cards and then play them face down simultaneously to decide what they think that they're going to win, what their bid is. You have the bets and the bids. So you're going to have your bid cards, which determine how many bids, how many tricks you think you're going to win, and that number is going to be between, well, 0 and 5 tricks, because that's how many hands there are. The maximum number of tricks you could win is 5, the minimum you can win is 0. I don't know why I said 7, that was strange. But from there you go ahead and you take cards, so I'm going to go ahead and look at my hand over here. This is, at a glance, looks like an okay hand. I've seen better, but I'm going to go ahead, it's a 2-player game right now, so let's pretend that I'm going to win 3. I'm going to pretend I'm going to win 3 over here. We're going to place that down, and then I'm going to go ahead and look at this hand, this player over here, and we're going to decide how many we're going to win. Whoo, boy. Okay, we're going to win 4 tricks, okay? So this definitely, the good news here is definitely someone's losing. So let's go ahead and play this out and see how this goes. So we both went ahead and put down our bid of how many tricks we think we're going to win. From there, we're also going to place our bet. Now, in my case, I wasn't that confident, as you can see, so I'm going to bid bet 0. We'll explain how that works in a second. And I, over here, also me, was pretty confident. We're going to bet max, okay? Now, let's go through how that plays out. So we're going to reveal our cards, and this is what we're saying over here. We're saying that this person over here on the left thinks they're going to win 3 tricks. This person thinks they're going to win 4 tricks. If they are correct, they will get the exact amount shown here, which basically is a reward for getting exactly what you thought. So for example, if I win 4 tricks, I'll get 10 money total, 10 sand dollars, which is the currency of the game. If I win anything more or less than that, then I get 1 sand dollar per trick, which means if I win 5 tricks, which is the maximum I can win, I'll only get 5, whereas if I win 4, I'll get 10. So you're always trying to get for exactly what you went for there. Over here, when you bid 3, I'll get 7, and again, 1 per trick for each one if I didn't guess correctly. The one exception to that is over here, if you bid 0. If you bid 0, you'll get 5. And basically, you can control for having as poor as hand as possible if possible, and you'll get 5 for the privilege of doing so. The downside is if you're wrong, you get nothing. So if you bid 0 and you win 3 tricks, you get nothing, not 3 points, 3 sand dollars. So that's what's going on over there. As far as betting, you have 3 options. You can bet 0, as I did, which is I'm just not committing anything. I'm saying I'm betting nothing. I'm betting nothing on the outcome. I either get it or I don't, call it a day. The next option is you could bet 1/2, which depends on the round you're in, but 1/2 means you look at the round number. Let's say we're on round 3, you round down, and that's how much you're betting. So in round 3, I'd be betting 1. I take from my personal pool of money, I put down 1, and if I'm correct, I will gain that 1 back plus another 1, and if I'm wrong, I will lose that 1. So you're basically betting. And then max is your betting equal to the round you're in. So again, your options are either nothing, the round you're in divided by, well, half, rounded down, or the full amount. In this case, that would be a bet of 3. So let's go ahead and do that. I bid 0, so I wasn't that confident. I bet 0. This player bet 3. We're taking it from the common pool because I didn't set it up properly, but that's going to be a bet. And let's go ahead and resolve the tricks. I'll play the 2 hands back and forth, and from there you'll see how it goes. So this player over here, they're going to start teasing things out and seeing how it goes. And we're going to start with something fairly basic. Let's go with that should be a fairly easy. We'll get a good feel for how things are going here. We're going to bet a pair of 2s. Okay, now this player over here is going to go ahead and look. Obviously, the rules here are slightly different because of the fact that I am, well, knowing both hands. But I'm going to go ahead and win that bet with a pair of 3s, which is where this little player aid comes into play. There's 1 for each player. The way the player aid works is it goes through the sequence of 6 possible options. A pair of cards is going to go through the tier of blue, then pink, then mixed. Okay, so your palms, your dolphins, or a mixed pair. In this case, a pair of 3s breaks a pair of 2s. They're both in the color blue, the suit of palms, which means they're going to win. So the high card wins over there. From there, you have no pair, palms, dolphins, and mixed again. So we're going to go through that over there, but you can see a pair of 3s beats a pair of 2, and they've won their first trick, which is not going to go well for my 4. I can afford to lose no more tricks. But the bad news is now I have to go ahead and commit here. So I think what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to tease out. We know that he can only afford to lose one more, so I'm going to try to tease it out, and we'll go with a very simple pairing of a 0 and a 3. Okay, so 0 and a 3 is the lowest possible tier. That's a mixed tier over there. We have mixed suits, we have mixed numbers. It's the lowest possible option. Very easy for me to beat, so I will go ahead and beat it, and I'll beat it with a 0-4. Okay, very easy to beat, but I know that I can lock it in. A 0-4, I have the high card, so I go ahead and I win that. Great, went ahead there. Now here's the problem. The problem now is I'm leading this next trick. And because I'm leading this next trick, I'm a little worried. So I'm going to hope for the best, and we'll see how it goes. So I'm going to bid a pair of 10s. This is the best possible thing you can bet, with the possible exception that there are cards that are wild. For every single suit over here, you're going to have the numbers 0 through 10, which is 11 total numbers, but 2 of each copy, and then as well as that, 2 wilds. A total of 24 cards per suit. So 2 wilds could match this. Can't beat it, but could match it. Fortunately, as predicted, I don't have 2 wilds, so I'm going to go ahead and do whatever the next worst thing I can do is, which will likely be, based on my hand over here, will likely be a 9 and a 4. I lose, they're going to go again. So we've won a second trick over here. That's going to be 2 tricks, and I'm still leading. So let's go this one more time. We think we could do this with this. Hopefully they don't have any blues. Any blues at all would win. Fortunately, it was right. I don't have 2 blues, so I'm going to go ahead and play these 2 6s. That's the worst thing I can possibly play based on my hand. And again, another win. Another win, which is excellent. So we got 3 wins over here, and now I'm leading it with a 3 and a 5. Hopefully that's good enough. It's not. It's not good enough. We have a pair of 8s. Okay, this is going to be an 8. This is the wild. I can call it what I want, which means if I'm trying to lose or win, gives me a little flexibility. But a pair of 8s beats a 3 and a 5, which means I get 2 tricks, which means the net result of this is as follows, okay? But this side won 2 tricks, this side won 3 tricks, which means we're going to have 2 sand dollars over here and 3 sand dollars over here. But what's interesting is I bet 3 sand dollars, which means I actually lose those, so I'm netting down to 0, and he's walking away with 2. Which is why it's important to think through what your hand is and how you can win or not as you play the game. And that's basically Twin Palms. That's the core concept of the game. You're playing these sets of cards, which gives you a bit of flexibility to think through how other players are playing and to modulate the way you pair things up. You might pair things in different ways as you see the round progress and as you see what you have to hit in order to get your target number or not. The way the game escalates or de-escalates, depending on what you're doing, is easy mode is going to have you playing with just blue cards. Only a 2-player game though. There's not enough cards for more. Regular mode is going to have those cards over here, and then once you go to the next level, you're going to mix in another suit of cards, and from there you're going to have the advanced and extreme. Advanced goes through a tier over here where you have palms, dolphins, sunglasses, then any form of mixed, and extreme is where every version of a mixing has its own ranking or tier. That's a lot to take in, not recommended unless you, well, have played either a lot of trick-taking games or have played this one a lot. And that is Palm Island. Rinse and repeat across a variable number, not Palm Island. That is Twin Palms. Rinse and repeat across a variable number of rounds, either 5, 6, or 8, depending on the player count. And that's the game. You go through that, rinse and repeat, and call it a day. Which brings us to the review part of things. And before I dive into the review, it's worth diving into my experience or history with trick-taking games, because I have had a very mixed history of trick-taking games, going from I hate trick-taking games, I will never play them, to I'm on a bit of a resurgence and renaissance of them and enjoying them and hunting them down. So I've gone through a bit of a checkered past, and take that into account as I go through my opinion review of all that. I'm far from an expert. I am starting to enjoy them and on a pathway of discovery. So with that said, rules of play. Rules are incredibly easy to dive into. It's a page and a half of rules followed by the variations and all that. Very easy to go into, especially if you know trick-taking and the general concepts behind it. Broken up into the modes, but easy to learn, easy to teach. Table space is fairly minimal, and game time does vary. Each individual round is often, 4 or 5 minutes, but especially if you're playing, an 8-round game, that can turn this into a game that lasts 40, 45 minutes easily, depending on the player count, depending on what you're going through over there. As far as player count, this is a 2 to 5 player game, depending on the mode. Like I said, some of the modes specifically accommodate or don't accommodate different player counts. The easy mode is going to only accommodate 2, and normal is going to accommodate 2 to 4, and then once you incorporate that third deck, that's when you can go all the way up to 5 players, just because you have 10 cards per round, and you need to actually have 10 cards that you can deal out. As far as what I like, don't like, and can see others not liking, the art and theme is all very laid back, does a good job there. The escalation of the complexity. I started with normal mode, I have not played on easy, I have not played on extreme, I have played on normal and advanced to give me the feeling of the game over there, but the fact that they have that escalation, the fact that they have you could dive into this as a very quick introduction to trick taking if you play it on easy, or you can go all the way to the 9s if you really know what you're doing and you want to have all those levels of thinking through how things go on. And that's where the game elements come in, of the thought process of the game, of trying to predict and think through, based on your hand of cards, what you think makes for a good bet, what you think makes for a good bid, a good bet, a good sequence of play to get the maximum number of wins. Trying to figure it out that, I have 2 9s, I have 2 blue 9s. That's a decent chance of being able to lock in at least one guaranteed win, but it depends, because someone else can have 2 blue 10s, or they can have a single blue 10 and a wild. There's definitely chances and opportunities, but factoring in the size of the deck, what you have, what other players have, and trying to go for a degree of accurate prediction around what is most likely going to net you the win, factoring into account the player order as well, and the order in which you will win and or lose tricks, because controlling for that win or loss is obviously easier the further behind you are in turn order. So it's a lot of things to think through, but that thought process is where the game shines as far as figuring out those mixing and matching. And then adjusting how you mix and match to win or lose accordingly, depending on the game, is a big deal, and that goes up a lot. When you shift into advanced mode, you get a lot more opportunity to think through how to mix things up, to think through the benefits of pairing up cross suit a little bit more to get more pairs, versus having fewer pairs but within the same suit can potentially give you greater control, and factoring that all into just trying to win as many tricks as possible, or more specifically, trying to win the amount of tricks that you bid on. As far as what I don't like, nothing really changes the pace of the game round to round, which especially means that at player counts that have more rounds in play, meaning the lowest number of rounds you have is 5. But then once you go to 6 or 8 rounds, I find that the game experience often overstays its welcome based on the player count. And I think that's because it's trying to go for an even amount of turns in which somebody starts. For myself, I'm not a trick-taking guru. I'd rather have fewer rounds and have it just be, I don't know, I feel like the game, when we've played this one, in general, when it hits that 6th round or even that 8th round or whatever, I feel it outstays its welcome a bit, and it's a good game. I enjoyed the experience. I just think I would enjoy it at half the full round length. It's just that escalation across round to round to round. It's helpful for the betting on max. It's helpful because that maximum matters a lot more when you're on round 8 than it does in round 1, 2, and 3, and so the gravitas and the penalty, that part's helpful, but I don't know if it's worth it for how long the game carries on with no other escalation past the maximum number of the bet. As far as what I can see others not liking, betting on your bids often come down, at least in our groups, came down to betting 0 or betting max. Betting halfway often felt like it's not worth it. Either you're invested or you're not, and it's generally just more fun to bet max. That does taper off as you hit the last round or two when people start doing a little bit of mental calculations as far as what they need to win or not win, but I find that betting max is generally the thing that's more fun and generally the thing that was done more. Again, this is where being a trick-taking guru or just someone who knows the genre and likes it a lot more might be playing more strategically. We just play for more fun, and once you're going to commit to like, hey, I'm winning 3, it's often more fun to just escalate and say, well, I'm going to win 3, and I'm going to show you just how strongly I believe in that. And then lastly, I would say sometimes the right call cannot work out in your favor. At the end of the day, having a pair of blue 9s in your hand, there's a decent chance that is a guaranteed win. Just statistically, it works out, especially the higher player counts, the fact that there could be cards in the deck, the fact that other players could have cards, there's a decent chance you have a locked-in win there. And then sometimes you play that pair of 9s and you're beaten by a 10 and a wild, and it just feels frustrating to do that. So again, it averages out for the most part, but you want to factor that in, that the right statistical call is not the same thing as the right call, and because you're not watching people bid in order, you don't have that information. Some trick-taking games have that aspect of watching players bid, and then taking into account their confidence is part of what you have to take into account as well. Because you're doing it all at the same time, this game doesn't have that aspect. It's kind of going for the statistical call and hoping it plays out in your favor. Although again, there's some mitigation as far as holding back your hands, trying to bait out their wins, seeing if they have their 10s, hoping they play it when you played a mixed set. There are other factors to be sure, but just worth noting. As far as final thoughts, Twin Palm and final thoughts and rating. Twin Palms is a trick-taking game that offers an interesting gamble of how to mix and match in the most rewarding ways possible. The game is quick, it's accessible, it gives you a degree of thinking through things, of anticipating what you need to win, of betting and bidding accordingly to lock those in, and then going through the sequence of trying to figure out how to bait out someone else's move, of when to win, when to lose, so you can get the maximum number of wins possible in a round. For me, the biggest critique is just that the game runs a little long without any sense of escalation that has me invested in how long the game can run. Not that long, keep in mind. We're talking about like a 45-minute long game at the longest end, but still I feel that this is a game that I want to play for 20 minutes and not 45 minutes. That's the biggest critique I have. It's a 3.5 out of 5. It's a good dive into trick-taking. It's one of the trick-taking games I've enjoyed, while also being one that I'm not yet deeply in love with. As far as other game recommendations, Ghost of Christmas will also have a bidding aspect with a little bit more control over different facets of the game. And then Fox in the Forest, if you want something that gives you a little bit more of abilities as you go back and forth, Fox in the Forest has an extra level of abilities going on behind just past playing the trick itself. Only playable with 2 players. In any case, until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, have a good one.